Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right, well, welcome everybody to Sound Off with Kevin Williams. This is number 93 for October 7th, moving our way into the fall, counting down to days at IAPA. So, Kevin, how are you doing? How are you doing? How are you going to change my mind today?
Oh, well, yeah. I'm going to throw us all into the bear pit, as you said, and we're going to kind of comment on the lack of education in the LBE side of the business. Now, I'm not here to praise Caesar or to bury Caesar. I'm just here to point out that I feel that we are missing quite considerably a educational component regarding location-based entertainment to the infrastructure that is our industry. I think it is important that we should have an excellence claim mark. I've just come a couple of weeks ago now from Amusement 360, which is a kind of a boot camp educational process, but it's really more of an informative than an education. I have presented at the Foundation's Entertainment University, which is Jerry's interpretation of an educational kind of structure for individuals in LBE. But I think that there needs to be a bigger structure. And I know it isn't really a priority of IAPA at the moment, but I think it should be something that is part of the mix.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I will say that there's some, at least I have some optimism around the potential future growth in this area within at least the IAPA structure, the Norton Association, given the fact that the new board members that were just announced. We have two really strong FEC, LBE operators that are now on the board that's been missing for a long time. I mean, there's always been some FEC representation, but mostly international, but not quite what we would consider LBE. So, hopefully that does move and shift the direction there, but it is lacking, right? We have some great education for people who are looking to start an FEC or an LBE. In the Foundations program, there's others that talk about different components of it. Amusement 360 is trying to fill that gap a little bit. And yeah, you go to IAPA Expo, and there's 13 sessions that are focused on LBE. Okay, well, great, 13 sessions for the entire year, right? And if you don't go to the expo, then you don't get access to those sessions the rest of the year. And same thing if you go to FEC Summit, right? Or you go to some of these others. What can we do to make sure that there's more content available for those starting, but also in and trying to expand or shift or change their mindset around what they're doing in their facilities?
Agreed. It's part of the reason I brought it up is that I feel that it needs to be addressed. I'm coming across now executives that are moving into location-based entertainment that have zero skill sets regarding our industry. It's not their fault. There isn't a book or an educational process that they can go on other than coming to the Foundations and the Amusement 360s and the FEC circuses that all take place. Again, we need to standardize this because our industry is only as good as the executive pool that we generate internally.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, coming up after this quick break, we will dive right into the trends.
Power up your game floor with Arcades by Alan One. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Alan One has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-one.com to learn more. That's allen-one.com.
All right, well, let's dive in.
Right into the economy side, and continuation of what we've been talking about previously now is being reflected in hard, cold numbers that our friends at Universal Studios, who open a brand new gate to their resort complex are reporting that they're seeing a spiral of decline in the number of bookings that they were expecting. And obviously this will be mirrored by Disney, who have yet to reveal their decline numbers. This is the tourist sector being hit hard, a multitude of reasons. I'm not going to go into the reasons why. It is just an indicator that we need to be mindful of, especially from the North American entertainment sector.
And this couldn't come at a worse time, frankly, for Universal, given the opening, obviously, of Epic Universe. Also, given the fact that they're still have one of their key attractions, the Stardust Racer, is still shut down as they go through investigations on the recent death, and so this is really not ideal timing. And I'll tell you, when I even walked through Epic Universe, I was shocked at how few people were there when I was there. And granted, it was a rainy day, so it's always going to scare some people away. But this is something that I think there's potential oversaturation that's happening in Orlando, right at the same time as the we see quote unquote boycotts of tourists coming to the country at large, but also to Orlando as a destination.
The Canadian factor, the tourism factor, they're all playing their part, and they're all now being reflected in the numbers, which we can't ignore. This will impact the Orlando business scene because of the knock-ons, but it will have a greater impact. But again, I think around IAPA time we'll be in a better position to observe what those impacts will be. Moving into the biz, and our friends at Chuck E. Cheese revealed that they had successfully closed a over $600 million private credit term loan extension. To be exact, that gives them access to a considerable amount of money, which they can utilize to clear debts, and also for redevelopment and reinvestment of the operation. And that has been writ large with the announcements of the Chuck's Arcades, with the franchise business internationally, and with the soon-to-be opening Chuck's Adventure World venues. Be prepared to see this kind of investment going for grabbing as much real estate in the international market while the sun is shining.
Yeah, I mean, this is hopefully that there's a good amount of this that they're able to deploy as actual working capital or expansion capital, and it wasn't just a complete, restructuring, payback or restructuring of the debt, their term loan facility. Yeah. So, hopefully they're able to deploy some of this for continued expansion. I mean, they're on a roll. They're doing some great things. At least they seem to be having some positive impact. So hopefully this will be some fuel to the fire.
I was interested to add the picture there of Mr. Cheese in his vampire Halloween outfit. Very timely.
Yeah.
Moving on to development and grabbing as much real estate as possible, our friends at Player One, under the Genda Americas tutelage, have started an active rollout of the emoji planets. So, get the ball of red, twine out and link all the dots. This is Genda, utilizing a Unis Technologies franchise, which is branded. It gets confusing, but fundamentally it is Player One being able to utilize its buying power and its development power to be able to deploy, operate, well, not directly operate, but install these emoji planet entertainment spaces, and it looks like they're going to be targeting malls very heavily with the planned rollout.
Yeah, this one is interesting. I see Emoji Planet ultimately being an acquisition target for one of the Genda subgroups, whether Player One actually acquires them or Genda does directly. But I mean, I just see this as being another concept that they'll roll into their overarching family of brands. And be like hopefully a good situation for Unis, who helped, obviously got the IP license agreement in the first place from the Emoji IP, but then went and developed this concept of Emoji Planet around some of the different machines and pieces that they've developed. So, this seems like a strategic partnership that leads to an acquisition ultimately.
Yes, it isn't the official Genda moment in the presentation, but
it smells like it.
And talking about Genda has got involved with the HADO Arena concept, we touched upon in Open and Shut, that the HADO Arena experience is an augmented reality, the next generation sport. It's player versus player, launching virtual fireballs and putting up virtual shields. It is a sport that is popularized. It has a very large championship following. It is streamed during its championships. The Japanese operation that developed the concept has rolled out about 110 of these arenas here in England, in America, in Europe, and predominantly in Japan and China. And this latest installation in Japan, in Tokyo, will now have involvement from Genda, surprise, surprise, who will be dropping in some of their mini cranes and merch entertainment systems into the space. So along with the arena, along with the refreshments, there will be a Genda entertainment component to this. Now, I've been following MeLeap, the Japanese company behind the concept, very closely. They have been working over 10 years to get this concept across. They were one of the first that saw the benefit of what augmented reality entertainment could offer. They used some of the earliest technology, and now they have upgraded and upgraded as time has gone on to the latest augmented reality technology. The physical representations of the fireballs and the shields and the scoring and the player tactics come up into the vision of the players using the special headsets, which have been modified to be suitable for this very active entertainment. Funny enough, our friends at MeLeap also had developed a augmented reality go-kart experience back in 2018, but sadly, I think the technology was too early even for them then, and they've now focused more on their sports entertainment experience.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned on Open and Shut that this is an experience that I would love to play. I was trying to find a location in the U.S. and they have some coming soon, but there's maybe not any that I can find to go and try to check out easily.
They used to have a Chicago facility, but the agent that they partnered with wasn't suitable for the market.
Okay, well, that explains it. But yeah, I mean, it looks compelling from both a physicality standpoint and then also just from a technology standpoint. And I do wonder how the esports component works, from a spectator standpoint. It's one thing you're playing full VR or something when like you're fully immersed, but you've got this like physical body with all the augmented components. How, from a spectator standpoint, am I really able to watch all the interactivity that's happening? Would be really interesting to see that also, again, from a spectator standpoint, because when you watch a little bumper reel on their website, it's all added in CG to try to give you the experience. Obviously, you can't add CG in real time in a spectator esports arena experience.
The bumper reels, as well as the championship show, you can go on to YouTube and actually watch last year's championship game in Shanghai, and as you say, they superimpose the digital effects into the coverage, but from the audience's point of view, they're looking at giant screens to see the action.
Yeah.
Moving on, and entertainment news that will have an impact on us. The speculation is over. The world's worst kept secret. $50 billion to be thrown into the acquisition of Electronic Arts by a Saudi and tech investor, Cabal, Silver Lake, who are also involved in the acquisition of TikTok. Seem to be hoovering up everything at the moment. From Electronic Arts' point of view, going private will be an interesting one. How this will impact the content they create. The Battlefield games have usually been set in the Middle East, blasting the hell out of everyone. Will that now see a new relocation of where these combat games take place? fundamentally for us in the location-based entertainment industry, we have seen EA brand and IP deployed into the market on a number of occasions. And what that will mean now going forwards is, I think that this company will focus doubly down on transmedia. And I wouldn't be surprised if the new management Electronic Arts looks towards location-based entertainment as a possible business avenue.
Yeah, I mean, this will be interesting. It's the largest the largest transaction, I believe, to go private certainly in this sector, but I think in history, from what I was some of the research I was doing. So a pretty significant transaction and a good return for shareholders.
Oh yeah, excellent return for the shareholders. Tencent has done some very big deals, but they haven't, I don't think combined they have reached the $50 billion market. But this will now create an active competition between the North American market, the ownership by either Chinese or Saudi-based financial houses. Moving forwards, and another acquisition in the wings. It still hasn't been confirmed yet, but it looks like Netflix is going to be acquiring Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is already a transmedia operation with interest in theme parks, as well as their film and television and streaming interests. And obviously our friends at Netflix are now pivoting towards being transmedia with their Netflix house interests, along with their streaming and their branding.
This is epic. I mean, this is a massive deal for Netflix. Warner Brothers has been trying to find a home for a little while, so this is not news that Warner Brothers is getting acquired by somebody. But the fact that Netflix is picking this up, I mean, imagine now with Netflix's move into LBE, they now own all of Warner Brothers IP, including all of the DC IP as well. So now you have a major group that's already experimenting in LBE that has a direct competitor to Marvel, obviously owned by Disney and ABC. And so you now have two really big powerhouses. It'll be interesting to see how Netflix really expands what they're doing with Netflix House, if they continue to go the LBE route, or if they now think about going the Disney Universal route and having much larger theme parks, given their broader base of IP that they're going to be able to draw from if this closes.
Yeah, I get the feeling this is going to start off another round of merger and acquisition across our market. But again, it hasn't been concluded yet. We're still at the speculation stage, but I could say that we were exactly at the same point a couple of weeks ago regarding the EA acquisition, and look where that went. Interesting observation. When you're looking at your markets, you look at competing markets or influential markets in your sector. And from location-based entertainment to retail to hospitality, Starbucks is one of those brands that is ubiquitous across the retail space as a provider of beverages and services. I would argue that their Wi-Fi and their tables have been the birthplace of many a business over the years. They've kind of reflected a problem that we've seen in our own sector, which is management came in, threw the baby out with the bathwater, and now the executive board has kicked out that management and is desperately trying to put in place a management team that can bring the baby back into the washing implement. The situation here is that they are going to restructure quite considerably the operation. They're going to be getting rid of 500 of their facilities, scaling down to about 18,000 core owned and franchise sites internationally. And they're also looking at putting about $1 billion into rebranding, restructuring, and repositioning the operation to try and address the lead or the customer utilization that they feel that they've lost. This is also a kind of a reflection of something that's going on in the hospitality and retail, in the food sector, which is called the beverage war. We saw our friends at McDonald's open up their chain of beverage-styled McYuck facilities. I'm sorry, McCauley's, I think was the name of the.
I don't remember. It was, but it was like they were trying to be like this retro space themed kind of thing, and just have snacks and drinks. Yeah, it was. They ended up shutting it down, but yeah.
Yeah, it didn't last that long, and from all purposes, all of these drinks were heavy on colouring and heavy on sugar or corn syrup from the American standpoint, and it is kind of uncomfortable to see that even Starbucks went down that path with their cold protein foam drinks. Trying to become edgy for an older brand is always difficult, and I think the beverage wars was kind of that moment for a lot of these chains, where they were trying to find themselves by coming up with edgy drinks that TikToked well and were very social media friendly. Now reality has struck. They're going to have to nail down really where their business is coming from and who their key repeat visitors are or customers are to their operation, and we will see that $1 billion going towards defining where they want to fit into the international market.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really think that Starbucks shift began during COVID. I mean, really is when they lost their third place feel. It's when they cleared out their entire lobbies. They put in the mobile ordering. They really went aggressively into the mobile ordering. Obviously, it was still, that already existed beforehand, but they went aggressively down that path. They put tables in front of their front doors, and that's where you came and just picked up all your mobile orders and left. And they did all that stuff. And then so much when obviously that opened back up, they didn't bring the furniture back in. They didn't bring that third place vibe in most of their locations, and they just left almost a transactional feel to going and getting your coffee at Starbucks. So it's not a surprise that it's that the pendulum is swinging back at some level, and hopefully we'll find some even ground for them.
We hope that they find the middle ground that will allow them to continue in the market, though no one has guaranteed them existence on this planet. So, if they can't find it themselves, nature abhors a vacuum and someone will fill that. Topgolf, interesting one. Waking up and having this press release dumped upon me. I had to reread the press release a number of times to quite understand what the bunny was going on. But fundamentally, Topgolf are now utilizing the screens within their bays to be watch party locations. So you'll be able to watch the leading game taking place within one of these social bays. I don't know if they're going to close off the other bays around you while you're watching the match or the latest court game, but it's going to be a very noisy, I would think, kind of juxtaposition between people thwacking the balls and you screaming and shouting at the latest field goal. Along with that, they're supporting these watch parties with a specialist menu. The words straw and grasping come to mind.
So I was muted there for a minute. They are doing. They've been grasping for a while at the pile of straws, and this one just seems like a big ass stretch. This is, look, they've got the real estate clearly, and they need to fill that real estate. So, hey, come on down and watch parties. Why I wouldn't just go to my Dave and Buster's down the street, or even my local pub or bar or any other sports bar in my area? Why I would drive all the way to Topgolf and pay Topgolf prices for mediocre food? I have no idea, right? But like, it is, they are trying something to fill the real estate that isn't filled with golfers.
And indirectly, they're going to have to cough up some money for franchising to be able to run these shows on their screens. So whether it is a viable utilization of their space or if it's just a Hail Mary, pardon the pun, approach, then we will have to wait and see. And then the social influencers arrived. Mr. Beast, again, sniffing around our industry. If it isn't having failed events at Las Vegas resort casinos, he's now thrown his hat into the ring. I need to be very clear. He is flirting with the idea of opening his own theme park. He wouldn't be the first social influencer to jump into owning a bricks and mortar temple to their stardom. What a Mr. Beast's facility would look like and what it would comprise. I am sure many people have ideas. Let's just hope it doesn't have people sitting in rooms on fire as a means to generate clicks. But hey, if you're a YouTube star, you can do anything.
Yeah, I mean, look, he can flirt with the idea, and it'd be really interesting to see what the theming would be and what the attraction mix would be, and is it like a full theme park, or is it more of a like LBE Netflix house style environment? But they're going to have to be, work with people from the industry. They've done a number of things and that have, I think, reasonably hurt his brand that have not worked out. He's done things in Vegas and others that just ended up having really negative reviews and negative guest feedback. And so hopefully he's learned from some of those lessons and deploys something a little bit more attentive to the guest.
Appropriate. I hope. I can only hope. I've come across some attitudes that feel that certain people surrounding these type of stars know better than the individuals that work in the industries, as we saw happen with his last resort. Let's hope that he's an individual that can learn from lessons. Interesting one here. The UK seems to be targeting for water parks at the moment. Our friends at Great Wolf Lodge have confirmed a £200 million development of a Great Wolf Lodge in Oxfordshire. Ground has broken on this. It's previously a golf course. It's now going to be turned into hotels, indoor water park, and amusement entertainment. This will be quite a big development for Great Wolf Lodge as they broaden themselves into an international brand. And it seems by a number of chains like using UK as a kind of a test bed because of the disposable income and the diverse ABC that we have in the UK. So I'm looking forward to being able to visit this particular one.
Yeah, I mean, so you have to maybe have some more insight in this than I do, just given the cultural differences between the US and the UK. But I am curious, in the US, this kind of regional and local destination tourism, you go to a hotel, you hang out there all day, you go to the water park, you have the different amusement components. That's existed in the U.S. for a long time. There's places like Branson, there's like the Wisconsin Dells that have many of these types of indoor facilities. Just curious if this type of culture exists in the UK, or would Great Wolf be one of the first? Like, is there a Kalahari resorts that already exist in the UK? Are these kind of things?
We have Centre Parks.
New? Okay.
Yeah, so Centre Parks UK has proven itself very popular. If you do your history here in the UK, we used to have holiday camps. And they do sound as grim as the name entails, that were entertainment locations with themed indoor activities and attractions. So this isn't a unique concept to the UK aspirational vacational market, but it will be packaged, I think, in a way more familiar to the Great Wolf Lodge branding than to the European branding, and the same way that our friends at Chuck E. Cheese are going to have to change their brand for their first rollouts of entertainment in the UK. I'm sure that Great Wolf Lodge has looked very closely at what changes they need to make. Moving on, and Whitewater have brought their endless surf technology to the UK. There will be a new Surf London park opening up. The dates that they keep on quoting here is 2027. So I think it's easy to say that the Great Wolf Lodge will open up around the end of 2026. And then 2027, we have this. This is an outdoor surfing experience. So I don't know how seasonal they're going to be operating this. There are some hardy individuals that will put on a wetsuit and take to this type of experience in all kinds of conditions. It will be fascinating to see how Whitewater and the developers of this, the Wave, change the structure of this design to suit the London audience that they're going to be dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask literally the exact same question I just did about Great Wolf Lodge. Does this type of surfing culture exists in the UK?
Yes.
I don't. Okay, so yeah, it's interesting.
People go down to Cornwall, put on their wetsuits, even at this time of year, and surf their bum off. Cold, I would say, bracing, they would say, but it is done, and I can see if this is handled right, this will appeal to that audience. Again, super parks. Scotland this time they've confirmed. We've talked about super parks in previous sound offs and opening charts. They've been actively rolling out their unique active entertainment experience, which includes some gamification components to it. And now that they've turned around and confirmed that they're going to be opening a 30,000 square foot facility for next year in Scotland, and that they are looking at rolling out more of this kind of entertainment throughout the UK, as well as a wider market.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got a great attraction mix. So glad to see that they're still successfully expanding.
I think they are the next generation of the active entertainment market, progression away from the trampoline-centric approach towards a more active, interactive, gamified kind of style, and they seem to do it very well. So, a couple of days ago, I had the pleasure of going to the opening of, well, not the opening, the VIP event. They have been in soft opening for a period of time of the latest Clay's virtual clay pigeon shooting competitive socializing venue. And we had a chance to try out their latest games. They have upgraded some of their experience to better suit the audience that they're trying to gather. And this is kind of what I would say the hiatus of the single entertainment competitive socializing environment. Because to be frank, while compelling entertainment experience is both of the two game systems, and I can explain that a little bit more in a minute, but both of the game systems are compelling, I can't see the audience is going to have the dwell time that they're going to really want to have unless they're depending on live performances and the drinks to pander to their audience. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, both dwell time and repeat visitation. I mean, unless this is something that you're really into or want to hone your skill set, this is really meant to be more competitive socializing. This is not, a golf simulator bay like a 5-iron where, look, if I can go there, whether I want to be there competitively or socially, I can still go there, just practice my swing and get better. This is a pure social entertainment environment. And, people I really question whether or not people are going to see the type of repeat visitation they're hoping for.
Yeah, so they have changed the model slightly from the venues that we have been to. So they're now up to 4 facilities. And the lessons they seem to have learned is that the bay single shooting experience, single or dual shooting experience, is not as popular or as strong an entertainment draw. And so they've now created these bays where you still have the same screen, but 4 players are able to take part at the same time in 4-player versions of the game. So rather than handing the gun over to the next person, you have mounted guns. So there's a cable going from the gun to the kiosk, and you blast away. Now, they use QR codes for your activation. So you go, you get your membership, you're given your bay or your timing slice. You then scan this, create your profile, and then take part in playing during your stay at the facility. There's a lot of concerns here. This is a lot of real estate. This is 14 of these large bays, including a VIP area, or 2 VIP areas to be exact, 1 VIP area and 1 VVIP enclosed single screen environment. They have 2 bars, dedicated bars. They have a live stage for the DJs. They have quite a beautiful bar, which is a signature attraction that all of these competitive socializing venues has latched onto, that they need to have a signature wow bar component. And they also have very well trained staff. A lot of the staff had been trained at the Canary Wharf facility that we first visited to, and I attended the launch of. So I'm beginning to get a picture now, the duration and operation of these kinds of brands. Clay's is not unique. Clay's has competition from Top Shot in Scotland, from Pan in France, and from Simway's rolled out shooting experience package that can be applied to any venue as a turnkey solution. So what is the USP that will make Clay's stand out from the rest? That's a question that I could not answer from this experience. The people I spoke to at the event, other than trying to get their hands on their next cocktail and trying to work out what was inside some of the canapes we were eating, weren't going to be coming back. Some of them were invited to this event, not because they worked in the industry or they were media, but because they actually were part of large group hire operations that look for places for their bank or their corporation to have private events at, or Christmas parties at. Those, I think, are the key focuses now for Clay's going forward. How many of the group bookings can they get in? I know from information made available to us that over 60% of their revenue comes from group booking business. So maybe this is a group booking facility that they have created. They don't really care about the dwell time, and they don't really care about the repeat visitation, because once they've got them, once they've had their event fully catered by them, and the drinks have flown, then they should have made quite a serious amount of bank out of it. I think that would be a very naive model to build an operation on. What happens next, now that Clay's has got some investment in it and now is looking at an active rollout of their operation, is going to be interesting. Are they going to have to go down the Five Irons route? Are they going to have to go down Flight Club or the F1 arcade route? Are they going to have to think about the immersive game box route of, can they pull out one of their enclosures and drop it into someone else's facilities? These are the questions that this current management structure is going to have to ask themselves, and if they haven't got an answer for it, building a facility like this in Soho is definitely not the answer.
Yeah, totally agreed with everything you said here. So it actually is even more shocking. I mentioned on the Open and Shut on Sunday that 14 shooting bays was an enormous amount of bays for a single location. I have a feeling the majority of them are going to be empty most of the time. But now hearing that there are 14 bays that are meant for multiple people shooting at once and not the original 14. Okay, so some. All right.
So
because that's an even enormous amount of.
There were 4 set up with these 4-player versions, and they've had to rescale everything. They've had to now create these plinths in which you place the gun. They've had to put poles up so you don't sweep people with this shotgun. So they've had to put some thought into this 4-player version of it. But next door to these, in another area, there are the usual bays that we are familiar with, where everybody gets a gun and maximum 2 people are playing at the same time. But that's very rare because of the sweep problem. You are using a fully weighted recreation of a shotgun. For whatever reason, the company feels that is still the model that they want to go down. This is a heavy weapon, and it is difficult to hold it up, even for someone such as myself that's used to shooting with shotguns. Holding one of these things that does have a slight recoil on it for a long period of time during the duration of a game that could take up to 15-20 minutes. Not the whole time you're going to be holding the gun, but literally handing it over, then taking it back, then playing, and then handing it over, depending on how many people in your groups, are issues.
Yeah, all of those are issues. Absolutely. The biggest one for me is the weight of the gun, and being able, having to hold that for a long period of time. Most people are not used to that, and it will be a frustrating experience, towards the tail end of their guest visit. But at the same time, I actually am a big fan of what they're doing with the
yes.
multiplayer gameplay. This is exactly what Smash Swing has done to the golf sim scenario, right? So like taking golf simulator experience, golf bay experience, and making it competitive and making it enjoyable and fun and social by having multiple people swinging clubs at a screen. You're doing now the same thing with these guns. So I actually really think that this is a good positive move in at least in diversifying their mix a little bit to drive some repeat visitation and some gameplay there. But I think you're right. They're going to have to rely heavily on corporate groups to really maintain and sustain a venue of this size in Soho in order to actually justify the real estate costs.
Very high fit out value, very high level of staffing. They're all very expensive and they really need to generate the ROI. I agree that their 4-player system is of extreme interest, and sometimes you can stumble upon a solution that may be a major factor in their next pivot or generation of their business. Jumping into the tech trends, and we touched upon this on Open and Shut, but a Spanish developer has created a virtual reality karting experience, this time human-powered karting, pedaling around a virtual environment with a Pico head-mounted display on, seeing unique environments around you where you have some level of interaction. They've opened their first pop-up or semi-permanent facility in Spain, 500 square meters of space for 10 riders, maximum of 10 riders going around on these carts. This is, we have seen this kind of thing before. Our friends at Dream Park at their first facility were playing around with a pedal-powered AR experience, building upon their augmented reality environment where you see the real world around you and then synthetic virtual items are placed in front of you. Here, this is a full VR experience, very similar to the VR go-karting experience that I talked about previously. But the nice thing about this is that it's a linear experience. So you can have those 10 people all on their pedal carts going around at the same speed. I love to try this because I want to know how they avoid collisions and people going off reservation. But again, a new application for XR into the karting experience.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of mentioned a little bit of this on the Open Shut, but like this to me feels like a prototype almost. Like it feels unfinished. You look at the facility, it's just this long, big hallway. Obviously, they have to have the markings on the walls and the floors so the VR knows where it is and everything else. But like it doesn't. It just doesn't feel. It feels like they're still trying to play around with the tech, trying to figure out what their MVP is for their product offering. Maybe not, right? I mean, but that's the way it feels to me. And hopefully they continue to evolve it. I'm not sure that this is really has legs as a standalone type of facility. This feels like it's a type of experience and technology you could drop into a larger format FEC, and have a unique additional experience that helps drive some foot traffic in the door for that, amongst other things. But this is not a repeat visitation driver, at least from what I can tell, from what I've looked into them so far.
Yeah, from the video, it does feel like a one and done, a novelty experience. What level of gamification? Because if they're not putting any interactivity in other than pedaling around at a certain speed, then they're missing out. And is this something that is more of a standalone attraction, or is this an attraction that can be parachuted into an existing space? Again, these are the questions that they need to answer. And from the research I've done into this company, they're a very new startup into the business. And I think they're going to find it a very hard baptism of fire of where this best fits for the market.
Yeah.
So moving on, we're talking about augmented reality systems. And funny enough, we've just talked about HADO, who use a augmented reality system of their own manufacture. We know, of course, our friends at Versys, who had been using the Microsoft HoloLens system. But AR headsets are very popular in the enterprise sector. They have been proven bank, as it were. And we've seen our friends at Meta, showing off their pseudo AR Ray-Ban glasses. But fundamentally, we need to have a proper, reliable augmented reality headset, a see-through rather than pass-through platform. And with both Magic Leap and Microsoft pulling out of that market, we were left with a bit of a problem. We had an industry that was dependent on this technology with no platform. Well, then HMS has jumped in, a Japanese manufacturer of head-mounted displays, and they have launched their Stingray series of systems. And I perceive that this will be the replacement to those companies that were thinking of looking to use the HoloLens as their platform of choice. That said, there's also another Japanese manufacturer that has produced a HoloLens light kind of system, which our friends at Capcom were using in their Monster AR experience that we talked about a few sound-offs back. But it is interesting to see this kind of technology now warrants companies to actually develop dedicated systems rather than just crying their eyes out that Magic Leap and Microsoft have fallen out of interest of it.
Yeah, I think my one issue here is that this is still, like, in an industrial standpoint, this type of heavier, bulkier headset makes sense. You need things to be strong and durable, and you have components that can be replaceable on site, those kind of things. Like, that's all important. But I still struggle with. This is not getting anywhere to the point where where it's alleviating my issues I have with VR in a heavy active environment, right? If it's just kind of wandering around, kind of a immersive experience, this type of augmented reality headset, totally fine, because you're wearing it for 45 minutes and you're not really doing any sort of heavy stress or movement. But if you start to do something like the HADO experience that we're talking about, and you're really moving, you're sweating, like this type of headset is just not lightweight enough yet, I think, to really open up the types of experiences that we really can have with augmented reality.
So we've seen augmented reality used successfully on a dark ride, such as the Mario karting experience at Universal. As you say, we've seen a modified system that MeLeap used for their HADO. So we're getting close to understanding what are the components that we need for an effective AR system. I agree with you, the form factor is too heavy for our market in general, but again, depending on if the business is there, then the technology will evolve. Moving on to the wonderful world of AI, and I get to wear the I told you so t-shirt. We have constantly lambasted Amazon's attempts to create their walk-in, walk-out experience. The Amazon Fresh facilities, well, they've had to bite the bullet, and they're closing down the 19 locations here in the UK. Some of those locations will be taken over by other derivative operations, but falling back to the traditional approach. I think that black eye that they received regarding it being revealed that the Indian labor was overlooking near enough 50 to 60% of the purchases used through this system couldn't continue. I'm sure those wage bills were astronomical, and every time they tried to go back to the AI version of the platform or the machine learning camera recognition system, it just couldn't match a human being being in the loop. Either way, they're admitting to the failure here in the UK by closing down the 19 stores in the UK. Whether we will see a quiet closing down of all of the operation internationally, I leave that to your imagination.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it does happen. I mean, they'll keep one or two maybe as like experimental prototype stores to try new technology, or they'll implement some of this stuff at a smaller scale in one of their Whole Foods locations or whatever to continue, I think, pushing the boundaries here. But yeah, I mean, trying to operate these types of independent facilities that are just walk out, I think it was just a little bit too soon. It was also too soon culturally. I mean, I think it's one of the things in this Daily Mail article that you're referencing here. that they really felt like, there was this big brother surveillance component to it, especially when they were actually live human beings looking and watching this video and watching what you're pulling off the shelves, even though they have no connectivity to who you are. But it does give you that type of surveillance and feel to it.
Having to slave your credit cards to a particular facility, having to go through this process and then finding out that it was smoke and mirrors doesn't help. It wasn't that fresh.
Yes.
The uncanny valley has been visited upon us by AI being used in a synthetic version of a famous comic genius. To see Stan Lee created as a hologram that you pay to interact with at the LA Comic-Con kind of made me sick. It's always been the dark mirror concern that this technology would be used to bring back the dead. Those that remember the Last Action Hero Arnold Schwarzenegger film with the appearance of Humphrey Bogart as a groundbreaking piece of technology, to have him appear in the film after being dead for so many years didn't go down well, but they still keep on doing it, from Peter Cushing being reanimated for the Star Wars to, it goes on. I still say that the audience doesn't feel comfortable with this and the backlash that Comic-Con received, though I have seen video of people paying to interact with this AI chatbot. I suppose the only thing I can say is Excelsior.
Yeah, this one's an interesting one, only because I think that of all people maybe who would be who would find humor and wit in this thing, it would be Stan Lee, to see himself recreated as a hologram post mortem. I think if there's anybody who would actually find this entertaining and kind of smile at it, it would be him.
He's one of the few actors that left a legacy in place for his image and his voice and his mannerisms to be reused after his passing. Yeah.
So this is interesting, but I think in general, yes, it does have an uncanny valley feel to it.
If this one is followed by a couple more, then I will say then the public is going to have to embrace this. But at this moment in time, there seems to be a little bit of a backlash towards this. And then, of course, as a friend of mine likes to call them, piñatas with prizes. We have more of the delivery vehicles, and now DoorDash wants to remove all of their lovely bike employees, or not even employees, their bike hires off of the streets and replace them with Puckman-shaped red robots. They're being rolled out. This is not the first of the delivery robot drones that have been deployed on American streets. I am looking forward to seeing how well they survive in the wild. I get the feeling that we're going to be at a point where it is accepted, where they are part of the day-to-day life, or that we're going to be walking over the wreckage of broken open systems littering our streets. Either way, this is the latest company, along with Amazon, funny enough, and others, to put big money in autonomous delivery vehicles.
Yeah, this is. I mean, they're not the first ones to do the autonomous delivery vehicle. The first of the food delivery companies that have done that, developed a vehicle specifically for this. But there are other companies who are already in this space. What I think is funny about this design is it reminds me very much of the Little Tikes, Little Tikes push cart. Like the classic kid car. And so it's really, really funny. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks like a Little Tikes car. So there you go.
There are going to be a lot of people riding them, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
It's again, it's part of our future. Will these be able to survive in our society, or will these have to find a more generic and more robust approach? I'm reminded of the autonomous cars that were being used as pizza delivery systems. That didn't last that long because it was seen to be, over-engineered and over-expensive for what they were actually doing. But anyway, who knows? Anyway, that's it from me. Please remember that we have some new stingers and some new entertainment social arena issues out at the moment. You can listen to the audio of those as well as read through them. Obviously, we have the library of our podcasts, and if you have any questions or suggestions for me, you can hit me up on my email or on my LinkedIn.
Perfect. All right. Well, Kevin, another great sound off, and we're going to send you some food on a little Tykes vehicle.
It sadly didn't make it here, but I've got some spare parts for a robot I'd love to sell you.
All right. Perfect. All right. We'll see you on the next one.
See you.